All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's having a fantastic morning. It is Thursday. It feels like a Friday for me. It's the weekend. But nonetheless, I am here and you are here and I am grateful. If we have not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Daron Moore. I am serving as Chief Strategist for Black and L&D, but I'm also a Senior Director of Learning and Development at a small fintech company called Unveils. But most importantly, I'm really excited to be here. For those that may find some value out of this from an accessibility standpoint, I am a 40-something-year-old male. I'm wearing a black shirt. It's got a beard. And I am excited. I am motivated. I am encouraged. There are rare opportunities like this when we get to be in a room, virtual or otherwise, with Black professionals, period. It is even more rare to be in a room with Black professionals who are passionate about learning and development. So I am honored on that you've decided to join me today, and I want to make this the most valuable time that I possibly can. And for me to do that, I've got approximately 50 some odd slides that I could go through, but I won't. I won't go through all of them. I want this to be most valuable to you. But most importantly, the takeaway that I want you to have is to set the tone for the rest of this session for our learning exchange is about being bold. And Black and L&D is an opportunity for you to do that. If you are anything like me, getting into learning and development was a challenge. It was something maybe you didn't plan on. It was something you weren't really looking to, and maybe stumbled into it. But hopefully you're able to see the light and you're able to see the opportunities that you have as a learning and development professional. And I want to help you get there. So without further ado, I want to start with an introduction to who we are. For those who are new to the Black and L&D family, welcome. We are a professional organization built around these three principles: culture, community, and career. Our community is the brainchild of Mallory Steele, but it's blossomed into a beautiful safe haven for many of us. We are the few of a few Black learning and development professionals. We're constantly learning. This information that we have at our fingertips is endless, and we have the opportunities to soak up knowledge, acquire new skills. But development, on the other hand, is something that's a little different. It's more intentional. And we want to make sure that we are intentional about the development of our community. Our culture reflects that. This is a place where you can fearlessly ask your questions, where you can challenge, where you can be challenged, where you can just exhale and breathe, no mask, no judgment, just community. And whether you are a transitioning teacher, you are a seasoned professional looking to broaden your network with other professionals that have been in your shoes or walking in your shoes, career development is a focus for us as well. We have a global presence that will only grow in the near future, hopefully the very near future. And we are focused on things like community engagement efforts, local networking events, onboarding programs, upskilling opportunities. We have strategic partnerships that will help create opportunities to work with and for organizations that are aligned with our mission and vision. Soon we'll be able to rock Black and L&D swag and gear. And that's all on the roadmap, but it starts with this learning exchange and getting people excited and motivated about what we have coming up. There's a lot to be excited about, but over the next 2 days, you're going to have speakers abound, opportunities to connect, and I encourage you to do that. I want to set the stage by talking a little bit about what learning and development is and what learning and development isn't. And it's easier to describe when you're in water cooler conversations or you're looking on LinkedIn, they're talking about learning and development, but far too often are these terms lumped together, and they are misunderstood and in all reality, grossly undervalued. So let's break this down a little bit when we talk about learning and development. Learning is a process of acquiring knowledge and skills and attitudes, values through various different methods. Learning is a journey. It's never ending. It's a lifelong process. It's happening all the time. It helps us adapt to changes and challenges in our personal and our professional lives. And there are countless ways that learning can happen, but when it boils down, it really comes in three forms, okay? These three forms we are talking about, if this works, you may have heard about it, this formal, informal, and experiential learning. And what I refer to it as what you learn in the class, what you learn in the grass, and what you learn from falling on you can finish the rest of that, right? It's true, right? I can go the formal learning route and take a cooking class, right? Led by a world-renowned chef, right? I can browse online recipes and watch YouTube videos of people just like me learning to cook, whipping up ingredients. But it's not until I throw on my apron, get in the kitchen, burn up some stuff that I actually learn what I can and cannot do. And still to this day, my peach cobbler is nothing like my Aunt Marlene's peach cobbler. But whether it's learning to bake or teaching coding skills to software developer, that famous 70-20-10 model has proven true time and time again, right? The 70-20-10 model says 70% of learning comes from experience, 20% comes from unstructured and social learning, and then 10% comes from planned learning solutions. We know this, right? So I need experience and challenge and failure to really learn something. And then I need to learn from others and peers. But still, in learning and development, I find most professionals spend most of their time designing solutions that speak towards the 10 or 20% and not the 70%. We are focused on building e-learnings and courses and not experiences. And this is what I think is the secret sauce when we're talking about learning, right? And why is that? Why is it that we're still doing the same old, same old? Most of it is attributed to ignorance, right? Many organizations are stuck in old methodologies or approaches, and we rely on outdated practices. The other part falls on us to educate our organizations and our leaders to demonstrate the true value of learning and development. But development, on the other hand, is my humble opinion, is where the magic happens. Development is the intentional growth and maturation of the employee alongside the growth and maturation of the employer, right? You may hear development talked about in different contexts. So development may be talking about personal, professional, and career, right? So you may think of it as personal development is interpersonal skills, which we find more and more organizations drawing attention to: emotional intelligence, self-awareness. Professional development is that enhancement of your role or industry specific skills. So you're thinking coding skills or what have you. Developing an organization involves upskilling and reskilling and behavior change. And then career development is more long-term planning. Where do you want to move? And again, L&D professionals spend a lot of time focused on the professional development versus the personal career development, which the employee mostly cares about. And the thing about development that makes what we do so special is development is what makes us love our job. I really hope each of you gets the opportunity to work for a company or work for an organization that you love. And if that's not you, I get it. I apologize. We've all been there. But if you have had that opportunity, when you think about why you love that job, in all the jobs that you love that has very little to do about what you've learned in that classroom and has more to do about the relationships that you've developed. I love that job because I felt heard, I felt seen, I felt valued, and I worked with other people that heard me and saw me and valued me. That's development, that's growth, that's maturation. And our responsibility in L&D is to foster that environment. It's not just about the e-learnings and the curriculum development. It's about developing the employee. Because if I develop and I grow, I have the ability to be committed to that organization. And that's what every organization wants, right? They want people that are committed. Really, employees are going to fall in like one of three buckets, right? You're going to find the employee that wants to grow. They have opportunities to improve. They have maybe gaps they need to fill. You have people that want to be promoted. They are ambitious. They want to climb the corporate ladder. And then you have what most of the employee base is I'm not trying to be a CEO. I'm not trying to conquer the world. I just want to do my job, do it well, and then go home, right? We struggle focused on the succeed part, but just like that 70-20-10 model, about 70% of organizations want to be in that succeed space. And the 10 and 20% want to be in the grow and promote. So whether it's learning new skills or developing existing ones, we are advocates for learning and development. And what I try to emphasize to an organization is that those employees that want to grow, promote, or succeed, they end up being your organization's GPS, right? They tell you as the company owner, as the leader in the C-suite, your GPS will tell you how far you can go, how fast you can go. And L&D is responsible for fueling the GPS. So I try to spend a lot of my time promoting that responsibility of learning and development. And I challenge you as professionals to do the same and think about it a little bit differently if you have. Okay, so I'm going to ask a poll question here. If Veronica, if you can post this poll question, I want to know what drew you. I want to get an idea for this audience. All right, what describes why you are here? Right? Are you a person that is looking to land their first real L&D role? Are you been in it for a minute? Are you recently laid off looking? I know that's been something that we've seen all through LinkedIn and other networks. And maybe it's been a while. Maybe you are in L&D, you're just looking to grow, or maybe you're just here to stick your nose in and see what's going on. Let's see. Awesome. So it looks like we've got some, right, that are looking to get into the space for the first time. That's good. But many of us are just looking to grow and maybe get a little more cash. That's great. We got a few nosy folks. That's okay. Good. That helps fuel kind of where I want to take this conversation. And I want to circle back a bit to why I think this conversation is important in this circle. And I will do so by sharing a little quick story. So I have been a Black male for all my life, right? But I have only been Daron for about 6 or 7 years. For the first 20 years of my professional career, I went by Daron. I went by Daron because I convinced myself as an 18-year-old who graduated from a predominantly white institution, had an experience that made me think that Daron needed to be who was in front of the person offering me a job. It was the person I needed to be to get promoted, to network. And so for 20 years, I went by Daron. My name is Daron. If you talk to my family, if you talk to anyone who knows me, it's Daron. But you will find people in my network that I've worked for. If you say, do you know Daron? They won't know who that is. They'll know Daron. And it's taken me time and opportunity to step into who I am, to mature, to own who I am. So Daron is standing in front of you today. And I can tell you the last 6 years of my professional career, it's skyrocketed. I've been able to take off the mask. I've been able to show vulnerability, authenticity. I've been able to embrace who I want to be, and people are drawn to it. And I share that because I know many times working and trying to navigate this space as a Black professional is not just black and white, right? We have to learn to try to navigate the gray. And I sincerely believe, as a Black and L&D advocate, as someone like you and I who are in this space, we are uniquely positioned to be facilitators, architects, and champions of experiences. And why do I say that? Because there are few better positioned to facilitate, architect, and champion experience than those who have faced the Black experience. The seasoning of the Black experience is rich, it's flavorful, and it's complicated. It's unique, yet it's shared. These experiences have tackled adversity, doubt, bias. We've shown excellence, dexterity, and poise. Resilience rests in our skin. It's shiny to some and scary to others, but it's there nonetheless. Our experiences have dated back to covert classrooms, to learn to read and write, to timeless, world-shaping speeches that have moved millions. Our experiences have been one that creates questions, excitement, and buzz. Our experiences can turn 2 slices of white bread, butter, and sugar into a 4-star delicacy. Our experiences can twirl twine that once wrapped around our necks and turn it into a choreographed ballad that brings smile and joy. Our experiences have learned music, arts, sports. We've learned sciences, manufacturing, education, media, and entertainment. We've mastered it all. We've developed genres, languages, cultural icons, moguls, and martyrs. If you look any buzzword or mission statement of any company website, we can do it. Innovation, excellence, agility, creativity, passion, purpose. We've done it. Our experiences know pain as well as progress. Our experiences have conversations with our children, and we encourage them to learn and develop so that they can be in a better position than we were. I have to tell my son to look a man in the eye because my grandfather and his father didn't have that conversation. It was opposite. So when I talk about why this is a critical opportunity for us as Black and learning and development professionals, it's our experiences that make us uniquely positioned, because we can take a situation, a goal, of any organization that's looking to grow, promote, or succeed and navigate that gray area, because that's all we've ever done is navigate the gray. And I need you to think about that as you're getting into this space. Companies don't think of it like that. All right. Our organizations are still ages and ages behind. And I think it's primarily because there's a gap, right? In the most simple terms, L&D is a business function whose whole purpose is to bridge the gap between the organization and that organization's most valuable asset, its people, right? So for decades, it used to be where the employee would do everything they could to meet the needs of the organization. We saw a workforce that was willing to bend over backwards to get a good job with a reputable company. The name of the game was to get on and hold on, right? I can hear the echoes of like my uncles and grandparents saying, don't lose that good job, right? You show up on time, you do your job with a smile, you get your paycheck on Friday and you leave, right? The size of the gap didn't matter. Your job was to jump that gap and conform. But what we find is that times have changed, right? This thing called technology comes around and turns everything on its head. Companies becoming bigger and faster and stronger, and the workforce needs to do the same. So a industry that was focused on labor and agriculture started to become more industrialized and advanced. And that employee profile began to pivot from physical laborers to mental ones. And it's less about muscle, more about mind. So this term knowledge worker is introduced. And if a company had any hopes, and even to this day has any hopes of surviving, they can't just sit back and hope that a competent and capable knowledge worker finds them. They got to create competent and knowledgeable employees. So L&D starts to becoming more and more proficient. It's a game changer. We saw that digital revolution of computers. Now we see AI, right? I can think back to where training videos used to be sent on CDs, right? A CD disc used to get sent out and you have to play that. But now training teams have access to authoring tools to create their own. You've got mobile devices, you've got tools and resources that people can learn on the go. So we have to adjust and pivot, and we just can't rely on classroom trainings and opportunities. We have to be that bridge to connect the gap between the organization and the organisms that make them great. Okay, so how do we do that? I'll tell you a few components that I think are critically important in any learning and development strategy. Every company has a strategy. And in order for that strategy to get executed properly, the executors of that strategy need to be equipped and they need to be enabled. When that strategy changes, they need a why, they need a when, they need a concise what. So more than what we know as employees, we know that our capabilities are our ability to perform that job. So my mantra in learning and development is that we mobilize strategy, meaning learning and development is that tool that can take the ideas and strategy that the organization thinks is going to happen and make sure it falls all the way down to the boots on the ground. We also focus on ROI, and the ROI in learning and development is a return on performance, an ROP. So we focus on performance. So it's less about learning objectives and more about performance objectives. What is this employee going to be able to do after this learning initiative and this development initiative? And then catalyzing change. We know we talk about change management over and over again. You're going to hear sessions today talking about change management, but learning and development, our goal is to catalyze that change and make sure that we get momentum, and we plan and strategize around that. Less about knowledge gain and more about capability building. So capability is competence plus confidence underlined by culture. And that will give you capability, which you know, intangibles and tangibles, how confident you are in that, which is critically important, all underlined by the environment that this takes place in. That formula, if all things are positive, will then equal capability. And then growth needs to be personalized, meaning I don't want a cookie cutter program. I need to know, I want something curated to my strengths, to my abilities. And I need to know what I need to know, when I need to know it. So the goal is to try to design that as such. I'm going to take a look here at Q&A, do a check here. See some good stuff in here. Good. Okay. So this ability to think about this bridge, right? These 5 components can serve as the bridge to that gap between the organization and the organism. Now, I know several of us introduced themselves as being new to the industry. And on a more micro level, the roles that we once knew or were beginning to know are already starting to evolve. Notice I haven't talked about trainers or instructional designers or anything role specific, because I've been in this space for about 15 years, and I can tell you the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've seen more maturation in the L&D space than I ever have. And I'm seeing light bulbs turn on in the C-suite about how critical it is that organizations are able to keep talent or attract talent, keep talent, grow them before they go on to other positions. The days of staying at a company for 10, 15 years, I don't think that's coming back. You're going to have a few who do it, but I don't think that's going to be the case. You're looking at 2 to 3 year rotations. And if you want to go beyond that, there has to be value in learning and development. So what I'm seeing is that this idea of learning is transforming and evolving. Digital learning is more important than ever. And it's the lifeblood of any L&D function, in my opinion. You need to be able to demonstrate your ROI with data. So now you can find like job descriptions that are looking for experienced designers or content developers, and not just instructional designers. Trainers are now becoming education specialists, where they're teaching an organization how to learn versus teaching them a particular subject. I'm finding that there's now a role for an L&D or learning analyst that can take data from a learning management system, an LMS, or find data from our training material and identify the gaps and create a scorecard of skills and capability gaps. Many of us are wearing a lot of these hats, doing it right now. But as L&D teams across the globe are being challenged to do more with less, I can see this transitioning. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. Current state, I can probably find 10 of us on this call right now who are a trainer, a training coordinator, a learning analyst, and an instructional designer all at the same time. And that's tough. That's a challenge. But what do we do in the meantime? Okay. I'll tell you where I would start, and I would encourage you to zoom out. You have to learn to speak and understand the language of your organization and temper expectations around doing the same. So as people, it's typically easier for us to connect with the needs of the employee, because we've been there, right? We're people. We've been there. We know what it's like to be a learner. We know what's it like to be asked to just figure it out, right? So we want to advocate for their needs. But if you want longevity in this space and learning and development, you have to be able to bridge that gap and identify the needs of the organization. Okay. So this is a snapshot of what I call, and I create an impact map. When I start a job or I start a role as a senior director and start from a strategic standpoint, I create an impact map. And my impact map is going to highlight the goals at the top from an organizational level and drill all the way down to my learner goals. And I focus on trying to identify what's here in the middle, the critical on-the-job behaviors and the core activities, right? And I'll give you an example of what this looks like. So when we're looking at these topics of the impact map, right? Your on-the-job behaviors on up, this is what your company cares about. This is what your C-suite cares about, your leaders. Your employee is going to be caring about what am I going to learn, what are the skills and the resources that I have, but your sweet spot is here in the middle. I'll give you an example. So if you have a company that wants to increase their revenue growth by 12%, that means that the sales function, right? If we're trying to build training material for the sales function, they need to increase bookings by 20%. That means every field sales rep has to increase their pipeline by 3. They've got to add 3 more people to their pipeline. Well, how do they get better at adding more people to their pipeline? The behavior is they got to be better trusted advisors to the clients that they're talking to. What activities does that mean? Well, they have to be better at discovery, asking better questions. Okay, so to ask better questions, I need to create active listening. So active listening is the skill that we're going to focus on. Now I can create resources and training material to help drive active listening. So I may create a simulation or a one-pager that they can access as a just-in-time learning tool, so that whatever that employee's goal is, whether they want to grow, they want to get promoted, they want to succeed, I can connect the dots. So the employee's able to see why it's important to engage in this learning initiative. The organization can see why it's important to engage in this learning initiative. And me as the L&D practitioner, I've got proof and evidence and justification as to why I'm investing time into this. I also have a scorecard and resume for when I do reach these goals. So I can tell you this, I can go on and on stuff about an impact map. I've got a template that I can share with you guys on creating an impact map. We can also talk about having future sessions on impact maps and creating it. I've already connected with a few Black and L&D leaders who have asked about how do I grow, how do I get promoted, how I succeed, how I move from an individual contributor to a people leader for the first time. And I've shared some of these tools. I'm happy to do it as well. Just reach out and connect with me. I also would encourage you to connect and partner with Phillips Learning Design. Catherine Phillips is the thought leader and the owner and brainchild for Phillips Learning and Design. Check out her LinkedIn page, but she talks about this program called Power Outcomes. It's right in line with this, right? Organizations who are trying to get outcomes and driving those outcomes through learning and development. There's a lot to unpack there, but definitely want to connect you to Phillips Learning Design. All right, so I'm going to look here at Q&A. Is there anything, Veronica, I don't know if there's anything that came up that I need to address? Perfect. On stage. I'm an L&D. I want to learn how to make my virtual classes more engaging. I don't know what I don't know, so I'm here to grow my career. Awesome. I will tell you this. I'm I'm gonna give you a quick 2-minute this tip in 2 minutes. Your virtual sessions, whether it's a 30-minute, 45-minute, or 60-minute, my tip is to identify what I call touches. And a touch is an opportunity for you to have a two-way dialogue with your audience. The rule of thumb is you want to have a touch every 6 minutes. And there's 3 types of touches. There's a minimum touch, a moderate touch, and a maximum touch. Minimum touch requires the audience to maybe send a reaction. So give me a thumbs up if everyone can hear me, or there we go, right? That's a minimum touch. A moderate touch might be a poll question that asks something direct that people can engage into. A maximum touch may be a breakout room, or having someone come off mute and share something. Build in your touches in your session so you have at least one of those touches every 6 minutes. Ideally, you'll have a minimum, a moderate, and a max touch in that session, but maybe you can only have a minimum and a moderate, right? But those touches ensure that you have dialogue, and that helps design the experience more so than the content. So design your virtual classes around the experience and less about the content, and you'll have more people drawn to it. Hopefully that helps. So, guys, I've got about 2 minutes left. Let me share one more thing. There we go. All right, so there's my contact info, okay? I encourage you guys to be bold. I want to thank you guys for being here, taking 45 minutes out of your day. Your time is valuable, so I do not take it lightly. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to partner with you, help you out however I can, and be a resource, an advocate for you. I'm really, really excited about it. Join in on the session. You are going to get a survey emailed to you. That survey is going to come either tomorrow or Monday. I encourage you and ask that you take time to complete that survey. That data and that feedback that we get from the survey is extremely valuable, not only for future events, but also for us to promote and celebrate the effectiveness of this for future sponsors and future events. So please take time to complete that survey. There'll be a raffle for the survey as well. So every survey you submit, your name will be submitted for a raffle. You can get you a gift card. We can go to Sizzler, wherever I don't know if they have Sizzlers anymore, but definitely encourage you to do that. In the meantime, good people, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk soon. Have a good learning exchange.